Welcome. You're listening to the Best Tech Practices for Small Organizations podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Wells, and this podcast is presented by NWTechs and is designed to educate small and medium-sized organizations on the best practices for managing their IT. We cover topics ranging from cybersecurity to business communications to file storage to working remotely. In this episode, we're continuing our series titled Law Firms and Technology. This series, we're highlighting law firm leaders from around the world and learning from their experience on the best practices for managing their IT systems. In this episode, I have the privilege of talking to Joshua Freeman from Freeman Lovell Business and Real Estate Law Firm. Joshua believes you deserve expert, affordable representation that can help you understand and take the right risks as you build a scalable, sellable company. He has built his practice to help entrepreneurs navigate the complicated legal waters of business ownership to reach a successful exit. Thanks so much for joining me today, Josh.
Thanks for having me, Taylor. It's awesome to be here.
Awesome. Great. Well, let's jump right into the questions. The first question is a general question I like to ask everyone. What are you, maybe you and your other partners or your team, really looking forward to when it comes to technology and utilizing technology in the long run?
In the legal world, it's been an interesting place because of how our rules of professional ethics and things that are set up. It's disincentivized and discouraged law firms from being able to really invest in technology and really use that as something to grow their practices. It's something that we're trying to change within our own law firm. And, a lot of the things that we're looking at is, a lot of automation technology, having that continue to develop, continue to get better, and continue to get smarter. We focus a lot on and invest quite a bit in our practice because we find that, by doing that, it allows us to provide better legal services, more strategic and high level important legal advice from the human attorneys, and spend less time and money on document preparation and executing legal project, which is where most legal spend goes. So we're excited to see that continue to grow and continue to get better. We're also watching closely, a lot of the machine learning and AI technology and reviewing agreements and contracts and, discovery packages and other things that way to essentially just have a lot more robust of legal review. The growth and expansion of cloud technology and cloud storage and things has been huge for us. Since we started about 5 years ago, we've been a remote law firm and essentially housed all of our data in the cloud and used a lot of technology to be able to collaborate in a similar fashion to being in person, but, from wherever we may be. So long answer, but
I love it. Yeah, you have a couple things stood out to me in that. The first one is automation and AI. Tell me a little bit more about that. Have you implemented specific tools in your organization, or is it more just a futuristic of like, hey, we're really looking forward to some of these automation tools or AI tools that your firm can hopefully take advantage of?
Yeah, so we have implemented some and we're continuing to develop and work on others. So, with like the legal Zooms and Rocket Lawyers and those things coming about, we've gone in and created, document preparation automation for most of the routine contracts that we perform. But, one of the things that I think a lot of those lack is, they automate one task, but not necessarily a whole solution. And so we're in the process of developing more full solutions for small businesses. We're getting close to releasing one for LLC businesses that has not just to form an LLC, but to run and manage, to modify, to grant equity, to invest, and to, essentially manage your LLC over the long run through its, the legal life cycle that it's going to have and the changes it's going to need to make as you go from early stage startup to a more robust organization. And so we're looking at releasing that within the next month or two. Then we're shifting gears to our corporation packages, and then we'll continue to release different solutions that way. So we're looking at taking, not just the document preparation, but a more full solution to what a company needs. And so
ongoing management, very cool.
Yep. And so we're excited about that. On the, the AI machine learning side, we're working with a group to help us implement some machine learning tools in contract review and operating agreement review and some things that way. That's getting really interesting. And there are a number of groups that are starting to do that in really cool ways with a lot of the routine commercial contracts and other things like that. We're looking at trying to work with them and partner with them to create something that gets more involved in the business organization aspect. That's what we're doing and working on that way. But, that one's a little bit further behind the other side of things. But that's going to be really cool when we can have a computer that's looked at and analyzed, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of different document types, and to be able to help us issue spot and run that through. So we're excited to see how that comes along.
Very cool. I love it. I've had quite a few conversations with different law firms in this podcast series, and you're the first law firm I've talked to that are having these conversations around automation and AI. Super exciting. So kudos to your firm. Tell me about, are you relying on internal resources to do that? Do you have an IT team internally? Is there a third party that specializes in law firm automation and AI learning? Tell me about that.
So we have a sister company that some of the attorneys in our firm and some other, non-attorneys are involved in, that has been developing the document preparation and legal system process automation. And we've been partnering with a third-party company that works on the AI machine learning side of document review. That's a little above our expertise. So we have a sister company that does that, and that company provides that for our firm, and we also do it for other firms and organizations who are looking to do the same types of things as well.
I love it. That's phenomenal. Tell me about, as you move forward, and the Wall Street Journal article I was reading the other day about AI, and this is kind of a more philosophical question in some ways, but tell me about how you see your firm, positioning your firm. And the article is around how AI is not just going to replace manual tasks or kind of the administrative stuff that we're talking about, but eventually, and we're kind of hinting at this, AI is going to replace some of the knowledge-based tasks of actually the critical thinking and the decision making that we make. So where do you see your firm kind of down the road? Are you going to be focused heavily on, and kind of the outcome of the article was, hey, focus on relationships, focus on the intangibles. How do you see your firm positioning yourself for that, where computers can do, the vast majority of these things, and they can, make decisions for us? Tell me about how you see your firm, what's the real value add that your firm's going to provide?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, I think it's going to be kind of a gradual process, right? And the way I kind of see it is right now, we're trying to use technology, with automation and getting into some of the AI reviews and things that way to provide a more comprehensive and just a quicker ability to help us see the key things that we need to see in order to, help our clients make the right strategic legal decisions. I see for a while, we're going to be using that to supplement our ability to provide, very customized and better informed legal decision making for our clients. And as time goes, we're going to continue putting more and more of that decision making and more of that analysis into the technology and things that way. So, there's the relationship side aspect of it. There's also the side of making sure that the computer's answering the right questions. And I think there's a lot of shepherding the right information and making sure that the analysis is making sense. And so, I think it's going to be a gradual shift. But the thing that we've seen with the little that we've done is that it just empowers us as attorneys to provide much stronger legal decision making and to be able to spend more time connecting human to human with our clients than spending as much time in preparing documents or executing, legal projects.
Love it. That's phenomenal. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think as an IT provider, cybersecurity provider, we are in a relationship business too, just like your firm is. And we're constantly looking at ways to automate so that we can do more of the relationship stuff, right? And bolster and make us more efficient, especially being a relationship driven organization. It's very costly, right? Labor hours and much of our time, like you mentioned earlier, goes into it takes actual humans to execute the work. And any way we can make that more efficient. And then ultimately the consumer, the client, they get the better results and also a more affordable price, right? You can be more competitive and all that fun stuff.
Definitely.
Super cool. Another thing you mentioned earlier was about being a remote company and cloud-based. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me about how that's been kind of pre-COVID. You were obviously a remote company. And then tell me about post-COVID. Do you anticipate that continuing to be the case? And how do you see your company evolving with being remote and ensuring that you can still create that culture and making sure your team can still connect and build those relationships internally?
To answer your question with regards to whether we'll continue being remote, yeah, we will. We really love the independence that being remote provides us and the ability to find the right person for our organization wherever they may be.
Hmm.
And and so we've seen huge value in that, being able to find people who buy into our philosophy, our approach, buy into our culture and get that. And because we're 100% remote, we don't have the issues of having some people connecting in an office and some people connecting remotely and having kind of a disconnect there and people feeling like they're not creating the same level of relationships with the people they want to because they're not where they need to be. So I think it's one of those things where for us, I have a hard time seeing like hybrid organizations really working very well. I may be wrong on that, but with our organization, I don't think we would work well as a hybrid. I think we need to, be one or the other. And remote's great because, on my team that I connect with, over a video conference every day, I have people all over the country. We have team members in Maryland, Kentucky, and then 3 of us are, within, an hour and a half of each other in Utah. It's really nice because if I required everybody to be here, I wouldn't have, half of my team and they're the right fit and the right people, and it works really well.
Love it. That's phenomenal. Tell me about tools. And you mentioned video conferencing. First, I'd love to hear like, hey, what tools are the lifeblood of your organization, whether it's file storage or team collaboration? And then in conjunction with that, what tools you found super helpful with ensuring that collaboration still happens as you guys are not all in the same room?
Our core tools for our documents and files and everything like that, we use Microsoft SharePoint, and that's been a great tool for managing, the documents and file versioning and everything like that. And as a law firm, it's a huge part is, document management. And we explored a lot of different ones, and we ultimately like the flexibility and the integration with, the Microsoft 365 products and Microsoft Teams and everything that went with Microsoft SharePoint. So that's worked really well for our firm, and it's also extraordinarily affordable. The other key technologies we use, Monday.com is a really flexible, awesome project management CRM. You can use it for just about anything, and you can build things that work in whatever project management work style you want. And so for being a remote team and everybody having, kind of different preferences on how they track information, track projects and things that way, Monday's been incredible platform. It has internal messaging through, kind of like Slack, not quite as robust as Slack, but it has, a lot of internal messaging that tracks things in different threads and in different areas and topics, which is great for that. We use Microsoft Teams as kind of our virtual firm water cooler.
Nice.
Where we post stuff from, the jokey things and connect over whatever, and talk about non-work stuff, post, questions and everything that way. And so that's kind of where we'll kind of gather and share information and updates and, and communicate with each other that way and do internal calls and internal video conferencing. And that's been phenomenal. Those are probably like the three that we couldn't live without. Practice management and billing stuff we run through Clio.
Okay.
Which is great for small law firms. So yeah.
Great. That's super helpful. Yeah. And those are all phenomenal tools. Our organizations run off Microsoft 365 as well. And we've implemented it for a lot of the law firms we service and our clients in general. And Microsoft 365 has come a long way in a lot of ways. And it really can be an ecosystem. And what you're mentioning as far as just being kind of connecting everything. I love Google products as well. Gmail is by far the best email system out there. But unfortunately, the rest of the Google workspace is just not up to par for business level needs. And then you add on cybersecurity and the ability to really dive deep into the 365 and lock things down. And you can just have so many more security measures in place to ensure your data is secure and you're protecting your client's data. And Monday is also phenomenal too. We also love ClickUp is another great project management. It's a little more complex. We used Monday for years with our clients, then moved up to ClickUp because it's just a little bit more, especially with our technical background, it's a little more flexible, but those are all phenomenal tools and also Clio as well. And we've actually found some of our clients have moved away from even needing a CRM, especially since CRMs are so expensive, and moving just straight into Microsoft 365 and running everything off of that. Because like you mentioned, so affordable, it works so well. And then you have Microsoft Teams, which is just a phenomenal platform for team collaboration, meeting with clients, so on and so forth. My question in conjunction with that is, tell me about how do you interact with your clients virtually? Do you meet over Zoom? Do you meet over Microsoft Teams? Is it over the phone? Tell me about that.
Yeah, we use a kind of a combination of Zoom, Teams, and Google Meet, depending on what our clients are comfortable with and use the most. Do some phone stuff, but I think especially since COVID, and pretty much everyone's gotten comfortable using some of these video conferencing platforms. We've just been doing more of that. The ability to screen share and bring up virtual whiteboards and draw things out and everything, and bring the visual aspect of a meeting to something remote and virtual has been awesome. And so we primarily use those. We'll have in-person meetings when our clients request those. I try to spend most of my in-person time either at lunches or other things like that. And we do most of our meetings over Zoom or another video conferencing type platform.
Got it. So some of more of the relationship building you do in person, and then more of the administrative process stuff you do over the virtual tools.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot easier to bring up a contract that everybody can look at and see what you're marking up clearly and how you're doing things, or look at organization structures and charts and things like that over Zoom than it is even in person and on a whiteboard.
Definitely. Interesting. Since your organization's been remote since inception, tell me about, have you had pushback from clients? I mean, obviously this past year, everyone's been very agreeable when it comes to doing virtual meetings, but have you gotten pushback from it? When you do you obviously meet in person? Is it basically, the question is, do you think your clients prefer to meet over Zoom versus in person?
I think there's a balance in it. We do have a lot of clients that do want to meet us in person. They want to meet their lawyer. They want to see who they are, what they're about, see how we act, respond, our mannerisms, that kind of stuff, and build that in-person relationship. After kind of an initial meeting or something like that, we've seen most of our meetings and things work, more seamlessly and more easy over Zoom, and that, we don't have to have people, driving and commuting to our office, waiting for us to free up. The amount of efficiency and being able to get things done, the ability to quickly, go through files, bring up documents, whatever it is that we need to do is, easier through those. And so, I think it's somewhat client by client dependent, but we've received much less pushback than I think we anticipated being, fully virtual. It'll be interesting to see where things go. And if COVID made everyone so sick of this that they're going to want to do everything in person, who knows what the next, couple of years bring. But so far it's been received really positively. And, the other side of it too is we don't have to manage real estate. We don't have to continually figure out whether we need to get more office space. We've kind of doubled in size every year, and trying to imagine having to manage continually getting new lease, expanding our space and doing all of that, and the costs associated with that, and build outs and all of that.
Oh man. Yeah.
We wouldn't have been able to accomplish what we've accomplished if we had to manage real estate like that. And so I think, there's pros and cons. And the other nice thing is we're able to provide services more affordably to our clients because we don't have large, real estate overhead to deal with. And so
it's phenomenal. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. And I love that. And I think, you're right. We'll see what the future holds of people getting sick of virtual environments. But ultimately, I think what we've experienced over the past 12 months, we have only expanded our geographic area because I think ultimately people want outcomes, right? They want, what value are you going to provide them? Yep. And if they can still get the same value, it ultimately is what they're looking for. It becomes a little bit more nuanced. And I think, as we've been talking about, it becomes nuanced when it comes to relationship building, because that is value, right? Of building that relationship and having those intangibles. That being said, if they can build a relationship and they can still get the same outcome overall, why not? Since COVID and since maybe this doesn't fully apply to your organization since you've been remote since the inception, but have you expanded since COVID, your geographic area? And do you plan on continuing to expand since you have already built an infrastructure of being remote?
Yeah, absolutely. So during COVID, we expanded into 5 new states, and we're looking to do the same, if not more, this year. And yeah, the amazing thing is, like I was saying, is it's we just need to find people who are the right fit for our organization, culturally, philosophically, have the same passion for entrepreneurship and small enterprises like we do. And if that person's in Kentucky or Arizona or Portland or wherever, it works great with us, and we can bring them in and get them onboarded and start working seamlessly and get them integrated into the right team. And it's awesome that way. So yeah, we're going to keep growing, and we plan eventually to have attorneys helping entrepreneurs in all 50 states. And that's what we want to see.
So that's super exciting. And sounds like you guys are on the right track and path for that. Tell me about this, kind of going back to the virtual communication. One thing we've noticed a lot recently is just fatigue of doing virtual conferences. And me personally, I'm on, hours, probably, 5 to 6 hours, maybe 7 hours a day. I'm in virtual meetings with the video on. Tell me about, and this is something that people are talking about more, is video on or video off. And have you guys experimented with doing, maybe a balance of having some of your calls, over the phone versus some of your calls all on Zoom, or video on or video off? And it's kind of a new term, even a weird term, even saying it, because I noticed pre-COVID, I would have tons of phone calls, right? But phone calls are kind of going away almost in some ways because of virtual video conferencing. Have you guys experimented with that? Or are you every call is virtual with the camera on, or do you do a mix?
We do a mix, and in our calls or anything like that, we don't require anyone to necessarily have their video on or have it off. My personal practice is in all of my team meetings, I put my video on so that they can see me and see my face while I'm doing it, and and have that more personal communication style, and they can read my mannerisms and responses that way. But we ultimately want our people to be comfortable however they are. And, part of our culture is we have our meetings, but, we don't necessarily police when people are doing what or things that way. And so if someone's, just getting done with a workout right before a call or something like that, and it's in the middle of the afternoon and they don't want to, hop on sweaty in their workout stuff, that's totally fine with us. And we're not going to ask questions and everything like that. And so I think it's something where it's we talk about the benefits of both. And especially when I'm with my clients, I always put my camera on and so they can see me and get a feel for me and, that, but we haven't policed it or required one way or the other.
Very cool. Yeah. And I love that. It sounds like you guys have a really cool culture and you're prioritizing the relationships, you're prioritizing the work versus necessarily the means to an end. And that's great. We've experienced it is a superior form of communication having your video on versus a phone call. And it's more dynamic. Like you mentioned, you get the nuances of expression and facial expressions and things like that. But with all the studies that have come out over the past year, it's definitely more fatiguing than being on a phone call or even being in person. And so kind of balancing that, and internally we've actually created a hierarchy of like how you should prioritize video on or video off. And we've also started, we have scheduling tools. People can book meetings with our team and stuff like that. And we're now starting to ask people, hey, do you prefer to have the video on or the video off? That way we ask our clients, hey, do you want to be on video? Because what's funny is if you start a video conferencing with somebody and whoever starts the meeting and they have the video on, it automatically makes the other person feel like they need to have their video on. So it creates this pressure, especially if it's an external person you're talking to, like a client, kind of creates that pressure of like, oh, now I need to turn my video on, even though if I'm not comfortable with it. And so kind of just bringing it out into the open where we talk about it. We're like, hey, this is something we realize is people are getting burnout being on camera all day, and rightfully so, just giving people more wiggle room. And I love that your firm is doing that as well.
Yeah, I know that burnout, it's definitely real. And something we noticed when we first started is that we tried to use the virtual technology to kind of replicate the same style meetings that we did in person, in conference rooms and things like that. And eventually we learned that didn't work all that well and that we needed it to kind of function the way that the virtual technology dictated and what made most sense for our team. And we stopped having as many like required sort of meetings and things like that, made them more flexible. And I think our organization probably spends we spend much less time now on the video conferencing and other remote meeting tools than we did when we first started, because we were just also used to the in-person approach. And so I think there might be some fatigue associated with that too, with just trying to figure out how this technology works best for teams.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that. We're wrapping up here. I got 2 more questions for you. Tell me about IT investment. In the past 12 months, has your firm invested more into IT? And as a budget line item, do you plan on investing more into your IT systems moving forward?
Yeah, with our growth, we've seen it grow and we continue to invest more into our automation, into our other tools that way. Yeah, we just see that growing because it ultimately makes us, that much more efficient, that much more profitable. I don't see that shrinking anytime soon.
Awesome. One question to wrap us up here. Tell me about cybersecurity and what are your thoughts on data security and how is your firm combating cybersecurity issues?
It's one of those things with a law firm. We have a lot of like very sensitive information and we have to be very careful about that. And so, as we're vetting software and other things like that, we're always looking into that. What we've done as a team, and one of the bright line rules is that with all of our technology, we have to have 2-factor authentication. In addition to all of the industry required security protections and all of that, between upping our account level to provide as much encryption and much protection as we possibly can, we require on all of our firm technology platforms that everybody use 2-factor authentication. So it makes it even harder for people to get into those.
I love it. Yep. I love it. That's a requirement across the board for all your logins and accounts. Do you have a third party or do you have an internal staff that helps with just managing your IT and implementing those cybersecurity protocols?
Yeah, we have a third-party IT consultant that helps us get those set up and manage some of those. We don't do a ton of close work, but yeah, they've helped kind of get us organized and off on the right foot.
Very cool. Love it. Well, thanks so much, Josh. This has been a very interesting conversation. Love hearing about your firm and your forward-thinking approach and also all the different things you're doing to leverage technology and grow your firm. You've been listening to the best tech practices for small organizations. Thanks for listening. To learn more about NWTechs and how we help small organizations tackle IT and cybersecurity challenges, please visit us at nwtechs.com. Thanks again, Josh.
Thank you.